All right. So cool. So Brian, sounds like you've done some research on FinLocker. So we'll take you through a deeper dive. What I'm going to do, guys, is start out, take you through a few slides. As you can see here, we've partnered with Brokers Are Better. Just to kind of level set, I met Anthony Casa back, gosh, probably the week after he started the Brawl movement. I was at Flagstar at the time running the TPO business. And Anthony and I got to know each other very well through that kind of early Brawl segment. And then as he launched AIM, we at Flagstar became partners with AIM and actually integrated with their Arrive technology and formed a really strong relationship. As I pivoted from Flagstar over here to FinLocker, where I invested in the company and joined as president, one of the first things we started working on was taking our platform and scaling it in a way that made it available for individual loan officers like you, Brian, and you, Joe. So what you're going to see is what was built really for an enterprise level organization, but we've built this now in a scalable manner that we can deliver it to each of you individually to provide to your customers. So I'll take you through that. One of the drivers for me getting excited about FinLocker was watching what large fintechs were doing in the race to the consumer. So I've circled a couple, apps that are out there, or fintechs, Mint.com and Credit Karma as examples, that are focused on getting their app, their technology to the consumer first, and then monetizing that consumer in the form of a lead where they sell it to the highest bidder. And some of these guys over here that I circled on the right happen to be some of those highest bidders. And what we built at FinLocker is a consumer-facing super app that's focused on home and finance, that takes much of the functionality that a consumer can derive from these individual apps and combines it all into one super app under your logo, under your name, and the consumer's not sold as a lead highest bidder. With the current health and financial crisis, we're seeing several use cases that will give loan officers a reason beyond a mortgage transaction to meaningfully engage with a consumer. And so in this case, with this COVID-19, health crisis that's turned into an economic crisis, providing your branded FinLocker to consumers to help them promote and help with financial health and wellness, again, gives you another reason to engage with a prospective customer other than for for the purposes of a mortgage. So you can build your sales pipeline in different manners. In addition, we have really built the platform to help the first-time home buyer with education and preparation for mortgage and home ownership. We are a strong platform when you have customers come into your sales funnel and they're not yet ready for a mortgage, either due to credit, income, or debt to income, or some combination thereof. And then finally, for those customers that have closed with you, the locker lives on and becomes a very strong customer for life platform. Once the consumer is enrolled in the locker, they can view their credit report, which includes credit score monitoring, as well as any alerts to changes in their credit profile. FinLocker securely stores the consumer's financial account data, providing them with a single pane of glass to monitor their entire financial life. Once account enrolled, the consumer has access to spending analysis as well as budgeting and savings goal tools, which are really helpful, again, for that first-time home buyer. We have an extensive library of credit, home ownership, and mortgage education. We'll show you that. Brian, you already hit on this, but we have real estate search available in the locker. I'll show you that when we go in there. That is powered by Nest Ready. And so the value of that in a locker is that could potentially keep that borrower off of Zillow and other aggregated lead sites. And then for those consumers who already own a home, this is more about your customer for life utility. They can receive regular updates on the value of that property, as well as recently sold homes near theirs. Enrollment in the locker is simple, and most important, it's super secure. We employ modern bank level security, which ensures the customer that their data and information is always safe. Our security layers include multi-factor authentication, encryption of the data, both as well as at rest, and identity verification as well. And we also perform our own SOC 2 Type 2 audit, but we're also subject to audits by Fannie Mae, Fiserv, as well as some of our clients who are large national banks. We have multiple patents on the locker. We've partnered with Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Microsoft, as well as a number of housing counseling advocacy groups on multiple initiatives, including helping first-time home buyers achieve the dream of home ownership. FinLocker is a Fannie Mae Day One Certainty approved vendor for asset verification. We'll show you that as we go through the demo. And we've built a mortgage readiness assessment that perpetually analyzes data in the consumer's locker, giving them transparency as to where they stand with respect to being ready for a mortgage. You can see some of the logos of some of our broker clients, as well as some wholesale lenders, Flagstar and PRMG partnered with. So the consumer is made aware when they become mortgage ready in the locker, which enables the mortgage application process to begin. And the key here is that the consumer is always in control and empowered to securely share data, documents, and other information from their locker directly with you in order to start and streamline the mortgage application process. We'll show you that as well. The locker is a reusable app. So the locker remains active beyond the closing of a mortgage, keeps you meaningfully connected to that customer. Consumers can access FinLocker via the desktop or mobile. And because we are a native app on iOS and Android, you become part of the consumer's financial life directly connected to their phone, which creates a relationship beyond a single mortgage transaction. So once again, these large fintechs continue to invest in order to win the race to the consumer. And ultimately, their goal is to disintermediate and disrupt the local real estate and mortgage professional. You can win the fight by leveraging your expertise, your knowledge, and your local relationships with state-of-the-art consumer-facing technology like FinLocker. So let's jump into the demo real quick. Let me do a couple things here just to make sure I don't lose my screens. Refresh and refresh. Before I do the demo, I'm going to show you a couple of landing pages or examples of what other brokers and organizations have used to drive consumers to the locker. This will kind of help you think about how you can get your prospect customers enrolled in a locker. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Vetted VA at all. Chris Griffith is a broker in Texas, and he started this group called Vetted VA, and they launched with FinLocker. They actually branded their product the Vetted VA Go Bag, powered by FinLocker. Stood up this landing page, so we built this landing page for Vetted VA, and we could do that for you guys as well if you don't have a landing page, or if you're not a Lead Pops client. And we'll talk about Lead Pops in a moment. But anyway, this landing page is meant to help consumers better understand what FinLocker is. So first thing we do is right at the top of the fold, we've got a call to action. This call to action would drive the consumer into the enrollment page of FinLocker, where they would start the sign up process. I'm not going to do a sign up, but I'll just show you real quick. So this would be your logo in this landing page, and then the consumer would start their sign up process with FinLocker. We also have additional information if they want to learn more. There's a video under here. There's some testimonials. Vetted VA included some testimonials, features, benefits, and then again another call to action. So we'll help you in your marketing efforts in the form of this type of landing page. If you work with a website company called Lead Pops, This is one of their brokers who's also a FinLocker client, Lund Mortgage. And so Lead Pops has built a landing page for FinLocker. They call it More Readiness. And so when I click into this, it's going to look very familiar to what we just saw with Vetted VA. But the same principle here. You've got information for the consumer to learn more about FinLocker. The videos under here, and then the calls to action are at the top, and then here where they can click in and start their sign up process. And then finally, I'll show you one other broker customer of ours. Joe, you may be familiar with these guys. They're local here in Michigan, Omega Lending. They partnered with us and they named their product the Omega Vault, powered by FinLocker. So Lund Mortgage, they call theirs the Lund Mortgage FinLocker. Vetted VA calls theirs the Go Bag, and then Omega branded their product the Omega Vault. And they built this landing page on their own. They took a lot of what we built in those other pages and just created their own customer experience. And they've got the key here is their video is exposed, so they're getting a higher view rate. So we're going to be tweaking our landing pages to actually show the consumer the video there. Let me refresh it because it didn't come through as clean as it should. But I think you get the idea that there's a couple different ways to drive traffic to your version of FinLocker. So let's start by looking at a branded version of FinLocker. This is Lund Mortgage's consumer FinLocker. You can see here when I come in as a user, none of these widgets are activated. So this is what the consumer sees when they first sign in and set up their locker. They have all these empty widgets, and then I'm going to take you to a fully activated locker in a moment. You'll see the difference in how it comes to life. So first off, from a white label branding perspective, we will brand this in your company's look and feel, color scheme, using your logo. FinLocker will be down here at the bottom, powered by FinLocker. And then we'll further customize it by adding your loan officer information in here. So if you're, single loan officer, owner, operator, then this will just be you. If you have multiple people on your team and they want to have accounts set up, they each could have a custom version of FinLocker. So what's cool here is your customers, your prospects will see your brand, when they're in this tool, but also see your direct information in this locker. Couple other areas that are customizable. This widget here that says Lund Mortgage Team, and you're going to see it when I pivot into this other locker. You can have up to 3 unique messages here, each with their own call to action. And I'll show you those when we get to the other locker. And then finally, if you manage a blog site, we can link your blog directly into your customers' lockers. Otherwise, Locker manages this blog, and this could be delivered into your locker. So let's go a fully enrolled consumer locker. First thing you'll see, this is my Acme Bank. This is our demo environment. This is actually live data from one of our colleagues. You'll see I'm the loan officer attached to this locker here. And so going to those custom fields or widgets rather, this is that rotating offer widget. You can have up to 3 unique offers at a time in your lockers. Each of these calls to action can point to a unique destination. They could be pointing to your emails. They could be immediately sending you an email. They could point to your website landing page. They could point to a product page. This locker is configured to enable Apply Now feature, which I'm going to show you in a minute. But just remember, this is your configurable place in the locker to present additional information to your prospects and clients. Here's that blog. Again, if you have your own blog, we can point to that. From a consumer perspective, once they've signed up and set up their locker, which literally takes 90 seconds to do, they'll come to this dashboard. Like I showed in the Lund dashboard, when they first, it'll be empty. And start the process of kind of populating or bringing it to life. One of the first steps we see most consumers take is enrolling for the credit. So signing up for credit in the locker is another very short, easy process. We have any verification process that verifies the consumer is who they say they are. They answer 3 out-of-wallet questions, and once they've completed that, this widget comes which populates their credit score. You can click in, actually see their credit report, and then drill into specific accounts in their credit report. They can also receive, or they will also receive, any credit alerts that they may get on their credit bureau will show up inside the widget. They'll also show up in the form of a notification, either in-app notification if they downloaded the app, and or an email if they select email for their notification preference. A couple of new things that we just added that are pretty cool. This came about from direct feedback from some of our broker clients. We created 3 additional links inside this credit widget for consumers to opt out of the do not call registry, so they can sign up for the national do not call registry. They can opt out of direct mail. And then most recent, we added this opt out pre-script. So this takes them to a website where they can sign up to be opting out of any credit triggers. So this is a big deal, and we're going to be promoting this through the brokers, and we strongly suggest that the loan officers promote that feature for their customers and prospects that get signed up in the locker. The next thing after credit that most consumers do is start to enroll their financial accounts. And the financial accounts, the transactional data behind the financial accounts really powers up the analytics layer of the dashboard. Let me refresh here. We got a little latency going on. All right, so now adding financial accounts. I'm going to click into this accounts widget in the upper left. You'll see down the left side of this landing page are the accounts that this particular consumer has enrolled in the locker. So we have several asset accounts. Those are in green, the savings, checking accounts, money markets, and then some liability accounts, including a mortgage and some credit card accounts. The thing to keep in mind here is, as a user, virtually any account that you have online login credentials for can be pulled. And so when you think about investment accounts, IRAs, 401ks, loans, student loans, I already said credit cards and mortgages. I even have my Liberty Mutual home and auto insurance enrolled, as well as my Verizon account. So there's, I wouldn't say an endless, but virtually, every account that you have credentials for, you can sync up to your locker. To the right is all of the transactional data that comes from all of these enrolled accounts. So every evening, FinLocker harvests all of the transactional data from that prior day. And so the next morning when the consumer comes in their locker, they have a refreshed set of transactional data in their locker. From this view, if they wanted to do just like a weekly review of their transactions to make sure there's nothing out of the ordinary showing up, they could sort among the different categories. I'll just show you real quick what it looks like if I was going to sort on deposits and specifically wages and salary. I would get a quick pivot down to all of my direct deposits in this particular locker. So you can drill on a bunch of categories in this view. Again, very useful for just keeping track and monitoring multiple accounts in one location. The power of the transactional data starts to bring to life these 2 widgets that are up in the middle here at the top, the spending widget and the budgets and goals. I'll show you the spending widget first. So if you've used any personal financial management tools or mint.com, etc., many have features like this spending analysis. And so in this view, let me look at April here. It's a cleaner month. What we're doing here is sorting out all of the transactions for the month of April, and the locker is categorizing those in these large groupings. To the right is the actual transactional data. I can now hover over one of these specific items in this donut and click into it and see the detail behind those transactions to the right. So I clicked on home, and these two transactions showed up in the month of April. I could click on goods and merchandise, and then all my spending and merchandise would be over here. So just a great.
So the application knows to, like, when it looks at your transactions, to put those in those buckets.
So with our data provider is Fiserv, and I would say in full transparency, about 75% of the transactional data gets categorized correctly based on Fiserv's database.
Okay.
But you can see here, if I click into this other bucket, that's a big number, there's going to be several items that just aren't clear enough for Fiserv to know what they are. And so as a specific user, like this net zoom, I have no idea what it is, but let's just presume it's something to do with home internet maybe, right? So I'd pick a category. I'm just going to call it utilities for now. So I can relabel it, and then it'll drop it into the utilities bucket directly for me.
Okay. All right.
And then the FinLocker product, as a consumer makes some of those categorizations, over time, the machine learning aspect of FinLocker will remember those transactions. And when they come in probably takes 3 or 4 of those categorizations that I just showed you for the locker to learn it. And then going forward, it'll categorize those properly for the consumer.
Okay.
But that's a great question. Let me show you the budgeting and goals widget. So this one, we're really excited about where we're going with budgeting. This Thursday, we'll have our Sprint 9 release. And in that sprint, we're releasing an additional budget view. So today, when a consumer comes into their locker, they go through this wizard process and can set up as many individual budgets as they want using these categories. They can actually create their own category, and then the transactional data from the accounts that they mark or tag to this particular budget will all flow into it. On Thursday night, when our next release goes into market, we will have a mortgage-ready budget that gets populated automatically when a locker gets opened. And we've modeled the budget after the HUD-approved mortgage housing counseling budget. And so there's a suggested budget percentage per expense category that'll default to that. And again, it's based on the HUD-approved budget that the housing counselors and coaches use. So we're excited about that. We'll be able to show you that, or you'll see it live in the next release, like I said, later this week. This view of budget will still remain. So if consumers want to create unique budgets, they can do that. And then they also will be able to edit over that HUD budget. So if there's categorization that happens automatically, they can override and change the budget amounts as well. And then all the tracking of expenses will come into that budget and provide them real-time daily updates on how they're doing with their particular budget. Let's look at a prior month real quick. Let's go look at April. So in this case, you can see our locker user exceeded their income goal for the month. So that's why you have green up here by income. And then far exceeded their spending against their budget. So they ended up with a net $12,008. Not a good month for our friend and colleague at FinLocker. I've set up a couple goals in this locker for demo purposes. You can see one for a new home, a kid's fund. This one's pretty cool. Mortgage payment cushion. So for first-time home buyers, coaching and advising them to set up a set-aside savings amount for that that cushion for 3 to 6 months following their mortgage closed, and they can literally pick the accounts that they want to tag that to. So in this case, our cushion account is assigned to our Midland States Bank money account, and we're tracking to have that goal achieved by the end of the year 2020, as an example. Let me go back to the dashboard, and then I'll take a short pause and take any thoughts, comments, questions before I continue on. All right. So for that consumer, already a homeowner, so this becomes kind of your customer for life benefit, can enroll their property and upload a photo of that property, and the lock will track their estimated value. And then because this locker has a mortgage enrolled and that mortgage is tagged to this property address, in this view, we're presenting the consumer with their estimated available home equity. Because it's in this locker, this coming during this year, I mentioned we partnered with Microsoft in the slides that I reviewed. Part of that partnership is to build out an AI experience for the consumer in their locker. And so our digital financial assistant, we named her Madison. She's telling me, who's our FinLocker colleague whose locker this is, that he has available equity of $244,000 and outstanding credit card debt of nearly $53,000. And Madison's asking if he'd like to consolidate that into a cash out refinance. As we progress forward with Microsoft, Brian were to say yes, the next thing he would do is he would see product and program offer presented by Madison for what a cash out refinance may look like, including the going rates today. So that has some work to do on our end, but I just show that as kind of the action we're taking with our locker, an engaging process for to get recommendations from the locker and pushing those offers back to you as a locker owner in this case. Let's look next at the real estate search widget. So this, Brian, as you said, is powered by Nest Ready. I'm going to click into some favorites. I've already saved a bunch of properties. And so in this view, I'm going to see the properties that I favorited as a user in this particular locker. And if I click into one of these listings, I'm going to be taken to the Nest Ready site. And from here, we further customize the experience. So in this demo that you see FinLocker, the logo, this would be your company logo here. And then where you see Eric Bloomquist as the loan officer, this would be your information, the loan officer. So all of the calls to action direct the consumer back to as the loan officer who sponsored this locker, a particular prospect and or consumer. Again, keeping them off of Zillow and other search sites, keeping them in your environment and under your logo is our goal here. I talked about the law being powerful for first-time home buyers. So I'm going to show you a couple areas where that runs to life. The first is this education section of the locker. Here we have links to some extra sites like HUD, Freddie Mac, both in Spanish, as well as embedded videos in the locker. We have over 140 videos today that highlight and focus on home ownership and mortgage readiness. I'm going to show you an example of one of the videos when we go to the readiness section. So this is these videos are in the locker and on the app and available for the consumer to view at their leisure when they want to learn more about the mortgage and home ownership process. This readiness assessment is analyzing in the consumer's locker against a set of rules in our rules. Once the consumer has completed their profile, which is part of their setup, enrolled their credit and their asset accounts, this readiness assessment, it becomes enabled. And from here, like I said, the locker is analyzing the consumer's data against a preset set of guidelines. Today we default to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac guidelines. That's this column here. But you see green checks are good. In this case, the consumer is good to go on credit because we validated, the locker is validated, no bankruptcies, no foreclosures, no late payments. But you can see we are missing a green check next to debt to income ratio. In fact, we're way out of whack on our DTI. And so most consumers, they don't really know what the heck debt to income ratio means. Where we tap to our library of videos. And the first video here will be a short video explaining to the consumer what debt to income ratio is.
Debt income ratio, or DTI, reflects the amount in recurring monthly bills versus your gross monthly income.
So it's about a minute of high quality audio and video. And then once they've completed that debt to income ratio, usually the next question is, well, what can I do about it? And we take them right into a short video.
One of the most important things you can do before
as well as how to set their budgets up in their locker. So an interactive experience, but very prescriptive and helping that consumer kind of accomplish tasks they need to do to become mortgage ready.
Can you change those parameters? Was that the guideline?
Yeah, we have a configurable rules engine on the back end of FinLocker, and be able to work with you on changing that if your company had guidelines that were more or less, restrictive.
Okay.
One of our coming soon features as well is a pilot that we're currently involved in with one of the GSEs and 2 national lenders to enable a persistent or perpetual mortgage approval in this in the same screen. So imagine a second button up here that when pushed or clicked by the consumer takes their data and pushes it to an AUS system in real time using a single bureau soft credit pull mortgage FICO credit report with their data from the locker to render a what I call a pre-approval on steroids. That'll be out of pilot and released probably in mid Q3.
So that Vantage score is actually a true FICO score that we would use in the mortgage world instead of just like a Credit Karma score?
This is this widget is, to your point, a Vantage score. So it's not a mortgage score. This is an important clarification. This is a consumer credit report, and it's not the permissible use of this credit report does not include applying for credit. The credit report that would be used for that perpetual approval that I referenced will be a credit report that's ultimately linked to a lender via the locker, and that will have a permissible use for a pre-approval for a mortgage. Does that help answer that for you?
Yeah, it does.
Let's look at one more thing, and then I'm going to show you how the consumer can actually share from their locker to start a mortgage application. So you'll see we have this calculators tab over here to the left. When I click into that, the consumer has access to today we have 4 dynamic calculators. The calculators are reading and utilizing information that's been either A, provided by the consumer in their profile, or B, stored in their locker from those enrolled accounts as well as their credit report. And so this affordability calculator is pretty cool. It's probably one of the most dynamic affordability calculators that I've seen, in that it doesn't really require the consumer to do any inputs, because we're leveraging the information from the consumer's locker. So in this case, based on what we know about this consumer and their locker, they can afford up to a $230,000 mortgage. By sliding this bar, they can see what it would look like if they had a smaller mortgage. You can see the payments are changing and the costs are changing to the right. Now we've got some configurable rules that we built around closing costs as a percentage. So this is not, directly tied to your pricing and product engine. It's mainly used as an indicator for that consumer. But they can find a sweet spot, if you will. Let's just say they were aiming for a home in the 150 range. They could save that off, and now when they come back in, all of that data would be saved in the calculator for that consumer. They can also click from this calculator and create a savings goal using the information from the calculator. So just a very dynamic and integrated calculator that's tied into the consumer's direct data. Opening up these accordions, they can then see the data that populates it. Again, most of this is all coming from the combination of their profile as well as their enrolled accounts. They can change the product here from conventional to FHA or VA, and that'll dynamically change the terms as well. Now, what I want to show you is from one of these calculators, what it might look like when a consumer is ready to start a mortgage application. So in this case, I went into the debt consolidation calculator. You can see FinLocker automatically populates this calculator with the outstanding liability accounts that have been enrolled. So we have a mortgage and 2 credit card accounts. And as I add the credit cards to this, this potential debt consolidation, you'll see that the calculator down here over in the lower right dynamically changed to reflect what the payoff would look like if I were to roll in these additional credit cards. One has a 0 payment, which means it's probably a newly opened credit card. At any rate, I'm going to click this button at the top. This call to action, this I'm interested. This is a configurable button, so you could call this apply now, learn more, contact me. In this case, FinLocker is set up to start the mortgage application process. So as I click into this, FinLocker is beginning to aggregate information from the consumer's locker to share with you, the loan officer. So clicking forward, the profile I set up as the user indicated that I was likely interested in a home loan. But if you had other products, those would be available here. And also for my profile, I said I was most interested in a single family, but I could change that to a condo, 2 to 4 family home. This is all data that's being aggregated and passed to you, again, to start the mortgage application process. A loan amount that I set up in my profile was $285. That could change. I could change that to $250. And then my income is from my profile. That could be changed. Maybe I estimated it when I set up my locker, and now my annual income is $58,000. And then I verify that. And then if there's a co-borrower that this locker owner is going to apply for a mortgage with, they can add the co-borrower. Otherwise, they can click through. And this is the sharing page. Couple things to note here. We've defaulted this standard mortgage application that's visible here for the consumer. And then as I come in as a user, I can begin to share the data from those asset and liability accounts, as well as my profile that I've built in my locker. I could select which asset accounts I want to share or not share. And then if I've stored any documents in the locker, in this case, I've got a couple tax returns and pay stubs in the locker, but I also know a checklist, and so I need these other items in order to submit a complete application to my loan officer. There I could just click into my desktop and drag any additional documents into the sharing process. I'll click continue. Back to the consumer, the data behind the enrolled accounts, as well as the documents they wish to share. They'll consent and acknowledge. And now what FinLocker is doing is pasting or posting the data in the form of a Fannie 3.2 or a MISMO 4 set, as well as the documents in a zip PDF file, the admin portal of FinLocker. At the same time, the loan officer who's attached to this locker, in this case, it's me, is getting an email, which I'll open up my Outlook here. I should have an email. I'm getting an email that says a customer from their lock shared information in order to mortgage application. And here it is. So here's the email that just came over. That would direct me to the admin FinLocker, where I would log in, sign in with my FinLocker credentials, and I would have access to that Fannie 3.2 data set, as well as those PDFs. And then I would drag those into my point of sale or loan origination system to begin the mortgage application process.
Is it a full Fannie 3.2? Like it asked all the government regulation questions and everything?
So as of this second, we're at about 70% of the data needed. And our push over the coming months is to continue to ask questions of the consumer, especially through that sharing process, to get to a place where we can present, as close to 100% of those data elements as possible. That's our call it our 90-day roadmap. And just for full disclosure and transparency, what's driving us to do this right this moment is the current COVID crisis. And we have a parallel path where we're working with some servicers on using FinLocker for servicers to deploy to consumers in forbearance, ultimately to be able to initiate a loss mitigation or loan modification application in the locker. So principally the same data set that is needed for a URLA or URLA is also needed for that mod application. We will be vastly increasing the amount of data that we pass to you as a loan officer through that exercise.
Was that 3.2, Brian? Does that upload into like Blink and all that with the documents, or do you know?
Yeah, there's two separate. You're gonna receive two separate feeds, if you will. From our portal, you're going to be able to grab the data set that represents the Fannie 3.2 file that you can copy to your desktop, drag it into your Point or your Arrive or your Calyx or whatever your system of record is, and that will pre-fill your 1003 there, and then the zip file of the PDFs, same thing. You'll save that to your desktop, and then you can, once you've loaded that loan in your Blink or your system, you can go grab those documents to append to that loan.
Okay.
All right, let me take another pause and take any thoughts, comments, questions, critiques.
All right. As you can tell, I ask a lot of questions, so here you go.
All right, man.
All right. As far as teaching a person how to use this system, I tell you where I'm at, because I was thinking about holding some first-time homebuyer seminars.
Yes.
And in the seminar, I want it to be like more than a 1 or 2 hour workshop. I want it to be like a full in-depth workshop where we can train them and get them mortgage ready. Yeah. How long would it take to like teach a person or walk them through this whole thing to get them? Because some people aren't that very, if you just let them go on their own, this will never get completed.
So I love that. I love that case and that concept. We have several clients of ours that specifically are focused on that first-time homebuyer segment. We've partnered with Freddie Mac. They love that segment, and so I think in the context of a seminar that you conduct, if you instructed those attendees, here's what I would suggest: that as part of the invitation to your seminar, you send them an invitation to the FinLocker, your version of FinLocker ahead of it, and ask them just simply to enroll, and don't do anything else unless they want to, but simply enroll. And then when they come into your workshop, maybe you spend 10 or 15 minutes tops where they open up their app on their pad or their phone, and you get them through the setup process of enrolling for credit, adding accounts, how to upload documents. And I think if you spent 15 minutes, it's probably pushing 10 minutes more than you need to. It's a very intuitive process.
Well, I think the part that I was trying to get at is like, see how like it has all the different sections
Yeah.
as far as like a budget. Some people don't really know how to set up a budget. So part of our
Yeah.
workshop would be maybe taking 30 minutes to an hour to do budgets.
Right. I love it.
So, and so like in that section, I will want to teach them, okay, this is what you put in here. This is what, you know, the different budgets that you have. And so when, as a loan officer, because I think right now I have like 6 or 7 loan officers right now underneath me.
Yep.
Like if we're doing a seminar, um, are you able, is there a training that the loan officer can go to learn how to use FinLocker so we can stand up in front of a crowd and say, bing, 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 this is how it
Yep.
goes, this is how you do it?
We support similar to this demo that we're doing here with our with Bob's team on customer success. We can help you kind of do a train the trainer for you guys, that you can become that expert for sure. And here's the other thing, probably the best thing you can do day one is tell your loan officers to set up their own FinLocker and get comfortable using it as a user, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yep.
And Brian, this is Brian, right? Brian Turner.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Hey, Brian. So another thing we often do is we'll give you a link to your locker so you can start that engagement. But what a lot of our customers will do, they'll go ahead and set up 2 lockers. One used for personal use, because there's no better way to learn it than use it from a personal perspective.
Uh-huh.
But they'll also set up a dual locker that they can use for like demo purposes. And we've got test accounts and you could share out to someone.
Okay.
And then really from an engagement, depending on what your prospect or customer is doing, the locker is going to work great as either a checkup or, hey, this week you did your budget, you know, and it gives you an opportunity to check back in with them as well. See how they're doing, how they're progressing.
Yeah, because in the market that we're in, not every market is like this, but we deal with a lot of individuals inner city, and so you'll get their credit scores at like 590, 600, and they have no clue what they're doing. And so I think that's what first drew me to FinLocker, because we get a lot of customers who aren't mortgage ready right now, and I've been looking for a program that would house like their credit scores, or is there like a section where you can make notes to them and say, hey, I want to make sure that, you know, we follow up here and you're doing this and we're going to follow back up with you next month. I don't know. Is there like a note section that we can leave them notes?
We don't have that today where you can specifically message to a individual user in their locker. You will, once you've reached kind of a number of lockers that are opened under your license, under your company, you'll be presented in the admin portal an anonymized view of those lockers. And from there, you can filter on things like credit score, DTI, savings, etc. And then let's say you got 200 lockers and you whittle it down to 20 specific consumers that meet those filtered items. Then you could use this offer widget and push a very specific message to those 20 individual locker users with messaging and a call to action. So let's just say, as an example, you know, they've kind of achieved some credit score goal that you've set, and now you want to message them to, you know, get back in touch with you or reach back out. That you can push that specific message into those lockers.
But we can't see the information in their FinLocker, can we?
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's a great point. I mentioned in the slides that we're all about consumer controlled and permissioned data. So this is data that's only viewable by the consumer until and unless they, you know, specifically give you either some set of the data in the form of what I showed you when we shared, but we have a upcoming feature. I think it's 2 sprints from now, where a locker user will be able to share a specific view of their locker with their loan officer, their credit coach, their housing counselor, their spouse, their pastor, whoever.
That's where I want to get to, because like if someone has a 590 credit score now and we're trying to get them into a home within, and we set them for a 640 credit score, and what we're going to try to do is build customers for life. So we want to maybe set up a monthly consultation with them. So when they come in, we say, hey, okay, let's sit down, let's look at your profile. And I think where you're moving to, if we're able to see some of that information before they come in, so we can sit down and say, okay, let's pop up your locker and let's talk about some of this stuff.
Yeah.
That would be helpful.
And Brian, we definitely have use cases, users where, hey, the way the journey, let's start out tracking your spending. Get your credit report, and maybe the first section is, why is a credit report important? Well, all the education will be there, plus they'll have their score. And it'll start them on the journey of improving the credit, and it'll just lead to steps, because then they'll enroll their assets and start getting a handle on their spending, and from there they can build a budget and ultimately achieve the dream of home ownership the right way, and know what they're doing and what they're sharing.
And how far is the Vantage score off from maybe like a mortgage FICO score?
I think there's some variability, but I think you can probably say safely it's 20 to 40 points.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that'll work.
A lot of times it depends on the individual. What Vantage Score is really good at is scoring non-traditional type of credit, and specifically kind of the underserved segment of home buyers. And so we partnered with Vantage for that reason. They score a wider segment of the population. But I would say if you gauged and said 20 to 40 points is the range, that's probably a safe bet.
Okay. And so you can kind of use this as a borrow portal also. Like they can put all their documents in there, tell them what you need for the loan process. And then when the time comes, all they have to do is just share it with you, and you don't have to worry about them collecting it.
Exactly right. In fact, if you think about the current environment, right, with rates being low, but still not as low as they probably ought to be, we have several loan officers that are using the locker as kind of an incubation tool and instructing their prospects to have all their information and documents ready to go in the locker, such that when the rates hit whatever that target mark is that they're aiming for, from a click of the button, they can begin that application process from their locker.
Okay.
Yep. What else can we answer for you?
I'll lay off for now.
No, it's all good. Great questions.
Hey, Brian, I'm curious, you're Kansas City, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I do know Missouri most, like if they're saving for college with kids, those accounts will pull in as well.
Okay. Yeah, and I saw where you guys link up to down payment assistant provider too. So when I was looking through the demo, I saw that also.
Yeah, we're still finalizing that integration. It's proven to be a little more involved, but where that will come to life ultimately is in the real estate search.
Okay.
So that's part of the integration, and that's another company called Down Payment Assistance. I think it's Down Payment Resources is the name of that company. So we're still working through that integration.
Okay. Hold on real quick.
Yep. So I mentioned in the first slide that we partnered with AIM and Brokers Are Better. And so what we've built is, like I said, we built this product to be, initially it was more of an enterprise platform. Banks, credit unions, large lenders would typically utilize the locker. We've scaled it, like I said, so that it's now available to you as an independent mortgage expert and down to the loan officer level. And we've also built the pricing to support that model. So we, for a loan officer, have built a monthly license structure. So there's three cost elements of FinLocker for a loan officer. There's a very modest upfront setup fee of $200. That allows us to get your customization for the LO, do some onboarding and training. And then we have a monthly license fee, which is $175 a month. That allows a loan officer to have up to 125 consumers in an active locker. You can also increase your license fee to increase your locker count. And that add-on would be for every 30 additional lockers, the license fee would increase by $50. And then lastly, when a consumer shares from their locker for a mortgage application, we have a one-time transaction fee of $125. And so the way we model when a consumer shares their data and documents for a mortgage application, there's a one-time transaction fee for that sharing of $125. So the math that we kind of laid out is if you have 125 consumers in lockers, you've paid the $200 onboarding, your $175 a month license fee, and if a modest 5% of your lockers converted to a mortgage, that would be 6 loans in a calendar year, just as an example. The total out-of-pocket cost for that loan officer would be $3,050, 3050. Not knowing what your loan officer revenue model is, but I model around 150 basis points as a revenue point. I also used a loan amount of $135,000. The ROI on that $3,050 is almost 600% using those assumptions, because you're going to generate probably close to $20,000 in revenue from those 6 loans. So essentially, 1 to 1.5 loans from a locker would pay for the locker for the year for a loan officer. So it's very, very affordable down to the loan officer level.
And is it on the sharing for the 125? Is that because it's going through some type of system or something?
No, this is part of the model to make this economically feasible for a loan officer. So on the enterprise level, with the larger banks, credit unions, and mortgage bankers that we contract with, we have a significantly higher per locker annual subscription fee. And that's $25 to $30 per year per locker.
Okay.
And then a slightly lower transaction fee. So we figured that for the loan officer would prefer a more affordable license fee and have the higher fee be driven by success, which is coming from producing loans.
Okay. Now, this is an individual basis. Do you have an enterprise account? Or no?
So how many loan officers do you have?
We're about to bring on a couple more, so I'll probably end up with like 7 or 8 here, including myself, 9.
Yeah, we don't currently have a plan that differentiates. We pretty much have gotten this thing as bare bones as we can.
Okay.
And still trying to make a buck on our end through this.
Okay, I got you.
Yep. Yeah, typically are you you're with Nexa, is that right, Brian?
Yes, sir.
So what we would need to do, we've actually demoed for a few other Nexa loan officers. In order to get your instance set up, we would need one of the broker owners to execute our master services agreement.
Mm-hmm.
And then you and your loan officers each would execute an individual loan officer billing agreement that would be tied to that Nexa master services agreement, but the billing and responsibility would be to you as the loan officer.
Okay.
That way we can use, the branding for Nexa. I'm assuming you probably have your own branding for your branch. Is that right?
We do. We have our logo. Yes.
Yep. So we would set you up as well that way. So I don't know if it's probably Renato who would probably have to sign off on the master services agreement, I'm guessing.
I didn't know Ronaldo was that big yet, but okay.
Isn't he one of the top of the tops over there?
I think he was one of the 4 founders of the company. So yeah.
He's the only one I know personally, right? Or no, Mike Cordes too, right?
Mike and Matt are the actual owners.
You know what? You're right.
Yep, Mike and Matt, and then Ronaldo is up there though.
Yeah. It would be Mike or Matt. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because I was looking into Monitor Base, and they had to sign off on Monitor Base.
Yeah.
For us also.
Yeah. The process is, we can move as fast as you want to move. So it's really at your pace. Once we have those agreements in place, typically it's about 48 to 72 hours in business days, and we can set up your instance of FinLocker, get your onboarding call, and then to your point of wanting to train your loan officers, we could schedule something to do that as well. We can do that as many times as necessary to get them comfortable.
Okay, and it'll be $200 per loan officer setup, and $175 monthly, and then $125 to share. And then
Exactly.
once you get up to 125 customers, then it's $50 more for additional 30.
Yeah. When we wrap up today, we'll send you a proposal or a quote that'll outline that for you.
And that comes with the Nest Ready, right? I mean,
Yes.
I know.
Yeah.
And with the Nest Ready, I know it's personalized for the loan officer, but I know with Nest Ready you can it might be something different, but you can co-brand with real estate agents. So I know yours is probably not part of that.
Yeah,
so.
ours doesn't go to that level of detail yet,
Okay.
Which we also don't have that costly price tag that you have if you went directly to Nest.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, with the Nest Ready, so when they click on the Nest Ready, will it send you emails or something back to you to show you what houses they're looking at? I know that was a big feature of Nest Ready, that it kind of had the technology to show you or send you something to show what houses they were looking at, or is it just for the consumer?
It's just for the consumer. In your admin portal, when you do that filtered view, you can include a filter for consumers that have done real estate search.
Okay. And you just set up one admin account, correct?
Yeah, each of your loan officers would have an admin account for their instance.
Okay.
Yep. Joe, any questions over there?
You know what? No, it's good info. I'm just taking it all in right now. So,
Joe, quit multitasking. Pay attention.
no, I'm the one-man band. I just got one LO that works for me part-time. So that's I'm just
Go right loans right now.
on there. So
No, I mean on this one, I'm very intrigued, and I want to get into FinLocker because it gives you a different element of just being a transaction person. It makes you more of a personal, and not like you care about the customer, but now you're building a plan for them and getting them to where they need to be, which will hopefully get you more referrals.
100%.
Pretty strong relationship with them, engagement comes out of it. Yeah.
Correct. And then it gives you a structure, because now we kind of talk to our customers when you show them, hey, you need to get your credit up, you need to stop spending so much, get on a budget. This is actually can be a game plan that you put together for them. So that's what I was really looking for, something with a game plan. That's why I was asking you, is there some kind of notes we can make, or something that their game plan, where they're at. But I think FinLocker does that. It tells them, like when you're at the mortgage ready part,
Yeah,
it tells them
that's
what
kind of
percentage.
yeah,
What percent,
that's the game plan, is that mortgage readiness assessment.
you didn't show that part, did you?
Yeah, that's where the credit analysis, the DTI, and those videos were.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. When we send you that, when I send you the recording after this, you can check that out as well.
Was it a green bar to go across there that says you're at 100%, you're at 75%?
No, that's actually on our roadmap, a more visual display of where
Okay.
this. Yeah. Real quick, I'm going to show you. This is a sneak peek. I mentioned that our this weekend, or this week at the end of the week, we're releasing a new budget format. In conjunction with that, we're also creating a net worth statement inside the locker. So this is not live yet for consumer, but it's just hit. This basically takes your standard kind of net worth statement for an individual, and we're taking information from their locker, pre-populating it in this form, but then also giving the consumer the ability. Let's say they have savings bonds and certificate deposit that they don't have an online account for. They can manually input the value, $5,000, and then save that, and that'll store for them in this net worth statement. Same with personal property that they own, or that they may not be able to link the value in the locker. They can update that in this net worth statement. From here, they can create a download of the statement, and then this will also be the way that the budget gets set up as well. So this is just a view of that downloaded statement. So continuing to find ways to add value for consumers using their own data from the locker.
Okay.
The screen's a little wonky right now. We're working on getting that cleaned up as well.
All right. No,
Cool.
I'm excited.
Anything else, guys?
Is that where your arrow's on right now, Brian, those little, this time to refinance?
Yes.
Do those, I know you said you program in whatever you want on there. Do they send a text message, an email? How do they alert the borrower? You said you could search
They would
inside 20 people that fit a parameter, and then
They would get a notification or an email, depending on what they've selected for their communication methodology in the locker. So I'll show you that real quick. In their profile, they can set up their preferences for communication in their settings. So over here, they can select how they want to be notified on various things, like push notification versus email for accounts, budgets, credit, goals, lender notifications. That's your pushing a message to them, etc.
okay.
And push would be a text message, correct?
It's a in-app notification. So if I've downloaded the app, then they would get their
It's like is it like a pop up on the screen that'll say you got something in there? Is that what it is?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So when their credit report updates, they'll get a push notification. When a new property shows up, if they already own a home and a new property shows up near their home, or their value of theirs changes, they'll get a notification. So our goal is to have meaningful engagement with the consumer from the locker under your logo and under your brand. So we become an extension of you in your interaction with the customer.
Do you have problems with that feature sometimes, depending on the MLS, like notifying them that? Because I know here in Kansas City, our MLS, they have a hard time trying to share people's information about what the house sold for and all that kind of stuff. So
this is an integration with CoreLogic, so it's all public record data.
Okay, all right. So you're not dealing with the MLSs. All right, good.
The only MLS data is in the Nest Ready environment only, not in that not in the CoreLogic deal. Awesome. Well, hey, we went 10 minutes over, so I want to be respectful of your time, even though we've already blown through it. We'll we'll follow up. We'll send you the recorded link so you have that. And then we'll also, like I said, send you that that pricing proposal information, and just let us know when you're ready to get started. We'll get you guys up and running.
Hey, thanks, Brian. I appreciate it.
Deal. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a good day. We'll see you.